Have you ever poured all your energy into saving something precious, only to watch it fall into the hands of someone unworthy? Evelyn Harper sacrificed everything, her career, her comfortable life in the big city, to return home and resurrect the family hotel. She revamped every detail, revived every corner, turning the place into a once proud family legacy. But just when everything seemed perfect, Evelyn realized that her sacrifices were merely a side note in the family's grander plan. They made a decision that would leave her feeling deeply betrayed. However, Evelyn is not one to easily give up. When everything turned against her, she fought not only to reclaim what was hers but also to prove her true worth. What happens when she decides to write a new chapter for herself? This is not just about recovery, it's a bold declaration of strength. The story begins. I am Evelyn Harper, 50 years old, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd have to fight for recognition within my own family. After 25 years of success in hotel management in San Francisco, I gave up everything to return to Montana and help save the family hotel, which was on the brink of failure. Ironically, I was the only one with practical experience in the hotel industry, while my brother Logan couldn't keep a job for more than a year, hopping from one position to another without ever settling down. What truly infuriates me is that 9 months ago, my father called me, tears in his voice, saying the hotel only had a few weeks before bankruptcy. Without hesitation, I sold my apartment in San Francisco, drained my savings, and came back to help. The hotel was stuck in the past, with outdated decor, no online presence, and reviews that made me ashamed. I worked day and night to modernize everything, from the booking system to the lobby furniture. God knows how many nights I spent hunched over spreadsheets, negotiating with suppliers and training staff. I leveraged industry connections to get us featured in travel magazines, and the results were remarkable. Silver Creek Lodge, once a 2-star nightmare, became the talk of the town. Our bookings doubled, and for the first time in years, we were actually profitable. Every detail, from carefully chosen artwork to upgraded amenities, was meticulously crafted to offer our guests an unforgettable experience. But standing here, watching Logan smile as my parents hand him everything I've worked so hard for, I realize that none of my efforts matter to them. The worst part? They're going to announce Logan's promotion at tonight's staff meeting, the same meeting where I should have been presenting our stellar quarterly results. I can feel the eyes of the staff on me, especially Linda, the head housekeeper who's been here for 25 years. They all know who really saved this hotel, but like me, they're forced to stand here and watch this charade unfold, pretending that everything is normal and fair. Let me give you some context. Silver Creek Lodge has been in my family since my grandparents built it in 1975. I practically grew up in these hallways, learning every aspect of the business from the very beginning. While other kids played house, I helped my mother host guests and watched my father handle maintenance issues. The hotel was my second home, and I cherished every minute of it. But Logan was different. 5 years younger than me, he never showed any interest in the family business. While I studied hotel management in college, he jumped from one field to another, from architecture to business, and eventually dropped out to find himself. My parents never minded this. He's just a creative type, they'd say. He needs time to find his path. Meanwhile, I built my career in San Francisco, rising from front desk manager to regional director for a major hotel chain. Every success I had received only lukewarm congratulations from my family. That's great, dear, but when are you coming home? When are you getting married? No matter what I achieved, it was never enough. When my father called about the hotel's financial struggles, I knew exactly what had to be done. The hotel was hemorrhaging money, the systems outdated, the processes inefficient, there was no real marketing strategy, and the online reviews were atrocious. Stuck in the past, in desperate need of an upgrade, not worth the price. I was heartbroken seeing the family legacy crumble. I quit my job in San Francisco and eventually resigned, diving headfirst into this rescue mission. The first month was spent handling the crisis, repairing broken equipment, updating the booking system, and training staff on basic customer service skills. I dipped into my savings to replace the old carpets and freshen up the lobby. Every dollar I spent was calculated to maximize profits. What frustrated me most was Logan's complete absence during this period. He was in Helena, claiming he was building relationships, but in reality, he was just partying with friends. He'd occasionally show up for family dinners, throw out vague suggestions about modernization, then disappear again. Yet, in my parents' eyes, those half-hearted suggestions were valued the same as the daily effort I poured into the hotel. I kept telling myself that the results would speak for themselves: better reviews, increased bookings, and positive customer feedback. They would have to recognize my value. But deep down, I should have known how it would all turn out. The past 3 weeks have been a nightmare. Logan has been swaggering around as if he owns the hotel, making arbitrary changes without understanding the first thing about how a hotel operates. Just yesterday, he decided to cut the free breakfast service to save costs, seemingly unaware that the breakfast was one of the highlights in our customer reviews. When I tried to explain with the data, he just laughed. Come on, Evelyn, numbers aren't everything. But what really broke me came this morning. I walked in to find Logan firing Grace, the head of housekeeping who had worked here for 20 years. The reason? She wasn't flexible enough with his new schedule, a system that would cause us to be severely understaffed during peak hours. I had to step in to save her job, but the look of humiliation on Grace's face is something that will haunt me forever. I tried talking to Mom and Dad about this. I brought spreadsheets with progress updates, customer reviews praising recent improvements, even financial forecasts for the next quarter. Dad just stared at his coffee, while Mom patted my hand and said, "Honey, give your brother time to settle in. He has some great ideas." On the way home, I unexpectedly spotted a "for sale" sign in front of the old Evergreen Lodge. It used to be our main competitor before it fell into disrepair last season. I pulled into the parking lot, my mind spinning. The property had huge potential, better views than our hotel, closer to the ski resort, and a much larger spa area. It needed work, but I knew exactly what to do. I sat in my car for almost an hour, staring at that sign, my thoughts swirling. Could I really do this? I thought about all the times Mom and Dad had downplayed me for Logan, every achievement of mine brushed aside, every contribution doubted. But then I thought about everything I had achieved, overcoming the neglect, the favoritism, and the deep wounds. Looking at that property, I saw more than just walls that needed a fresh coat of paint or a roof that needed repairs. I saw an opportunity to prove myself, to build something that would be entirely mine, something that didn't rely on anyone or require anyone's approval. And then, like a light bulb going off in my head, I picked up the phone and called the realtor. The owner was eager to sell, and thanks to my savings and a solid credit score, I could make the deal. By the time I was driving home, I had scheduled a viewing for the next morning. For the first time in months, I felt a surge of energy, even excitement. I didn't need to watch Logan destroy everything I had built. Instead, I would create something entirely new, something that was mine. They would have no choice but to see what they had sacrificed when they chose him over me. The following months were a whirlwind. I threw myself into making Evergreen Lodge something extraordinary. While Logan was busy throwing parties at Silver Creek Lodge, I was working with contractors, redesigning the space, and assembling a top-notch team in the hospitality industry. Every night, as I pored over designs and planned for the next day, I knew I had made the right decision. No longer was I just dreaming of a place in the family, I was carving out a place for myself, one that no one could deny. I named it Eagle Crest. It may have sounded a bit cliché, but I wanted everyone to understand my goal. Rumors spread quickly through town. Some called me petty for competing against my own family. Others, especially those who had worked with me at Silver Creek, quietly supported me. At first, Mom and Dad tried to make me feel guilty. How could you do this to your brother and your family? Mom would ask during the increasingly rare family dinners. I just smiled, changed the subject, and tried to keep the mood light. Meanwhile, Logan's poor management was slowly driving Silver Creek Lodge into the ground. Customer reviews plummeted, complaints about inconsistent service, maintenance issues, and even cleanliness. 3 senior employees had left within the first month of his takeover. I heard they had to lower room rates just to maintain occupancy. The grand opening of Eagle Crest happened exactly 6 months after that fateful day in the hotel lobby. I will never forget the look on my family's faces when they walked in. Mom's forced smile couldn't hide her shock, Dad's wide-eyed gaze as he took in the bustling space, and Logan's barely concealed fury. Local reporters were there, snapping photos, interviewing guests about the newest luxury destination in Big Sky. "I can't believe you're trying to destroy us," Logan growled as he blocked my path at the bar. I set my drink down, keeping my voice steady, offering nothing more than a thin, mocking smile. "No, Logan. This is me succeeding, despite the family." His fist tightened, eyes burning with an intensity that felt like it could scorch everything in its path. "You know Silver Creek is struggling. Don't you think this is another blow to them?" I turned to face him directly, meeting his gaze without flinching. "It's not my fault they refused to change. I offered ideas to help, but every single one was rejected, by you. Remember that?" Logan sneered, but his smile was laced with bitterness. "It's easy to stand here and pretend you have no responsibility." "I'm not irresponsible," I replied, my voice firm. "I just decided I wouldn't get caught in the family's mess anymore. Eagle Crest is my dream, Logan. I built it on my own, and I have no regrets." He shook his head and stepped back, his expression darkening. "You'll pay for this, Evelyn." The contrast between our two hotels couldn't have been starker. While Silver Creek Lodge struggled with basic maintenance, Eagle Crest was drawing attention with its environmentally friendly initiatives and luxury amenities. Every detail I had once dreamed of implementing at the family hotel, only to be shot down, was now a reality. From the restaurant menu using local ingredients to the modern spa facilities, it was everything I had envisioned. But success also brought its own challenges. Other hotels began to mimic my innovative booking system. Some people in town, old friends of my parents, started whispering that I was tearing the family apart. Even longtime patrons of Silver Creek Lodge began feeling guilty for supporting me. The real hurdles came as Eagle Crest grew. Former suppliers from Silver Creek Lodge were pressured not to work with me. My mom had a vast network of friends in town, and suddenly, a few longtime family friends stopped meeting me for coffee. I even lost my seat on the local tourism board due to a conflict of interest. But I refused to let the small-town politics ruin what I had built. When local suppliers hesitated, I found better partners in Helena. When the tourism board shut me out, I focused on building direct relationships with ski tour operators. Every obstacle only made me more creative, more determined. Then the biggest challenge arrived. One morning, my parents showed up in my office, looking anxious. The bank was threatening to foreclose on Silver Creek Lodge. Logan's mismanagement had finally caught up with them. They wanted me to come back, not as CEO, but to teach Logan how to run the place. "We're family," my mom pleaded. "You can't let the hotel fail." I looked at them, sitting across from me in the office I had built myself, and strangely, I felt calm. "I offered to help 8 months ago," I said. "You chose Logan. Now you need to live with your choice." My dad tried a different approach. "Think about your grandfather's legacy," he said softly. "This hotel has been in our family for generations." "And I've tried to protect that legacy," I responded. "But you handed it over to someone who treats it like a personal playground." The gossip in town grew more vicious after that. I was called a disrespectful daughter, cruel sister, family destroyer driven by hatred. There were days when those whispers hurt more than I cared to admit. But every morning, as I walked into the lobby of Eagle Crest and saw my dream made real, I knew I had made the right choice. My team had become my new family. Many of them were former Silver Creek employees who had left due to Logan's chaotic management. They understood that what I had built wasn't out of vengeance, but to create something meaningful, something we could all be proud of. The tipping point came at the annual Montana Luxury Hotel Awards. Eagle Crest was nominated for Best New Boutique Hotel. Silver Creek Lodge? Nowhere to be found in any category. I sat in the ballroom, surrounded by my team, as they announced our name as the winner. When I stepped onto the stage, I glanced briefly at my parents in the back corner of the room. They had shown up unannounced, perhaps hoping to show support for the family hotel as they had in years past. But their eyes spoke volumes. My mother was holding back tears, while my father looked as though he had aged a decade. Logan wasn't there. He had stopped attending industry events months ago, claiming they were nothing more than pointless competitions. But everyone in that room understood the significance of the moment. The student had surpassed the teacher. The meticulous, detail-oriented daughter had created something far beyond the family legacy they had refused to hand over to her. In my acceptance speech, I thanked my team, the guests, and even mentioned Silver Creek Lodge, the place where I first felt my love for the hospitality industry. The murmurs spread, as they caught the bitter implication behind my words. But it was the conversation that followed that truly changed everything. A renowned editor from a prestigious travel magazine approached me for an interview. As we spoke about the success of Eagle Crest, my parents lingered nearby, clearly listening to every word. They heard it all, the journey I had taken, the rejection of my CEO position, and how that rejection had driven me to build something of my own. Sometimes, the greatest success stories start with being underestimated, I said, loud enough for them to hear. That evening, the editor told me that Eagle Crest would be named Best Boutique Hotel in the Rockies in their upcoming issue. That same issue would feature an article on traditional hotels struggling to adapt, with Silver Creek Lodge as the prime example. When the article came out, it exploded like a bomb in our small town. Those who had once whispered that I was petty and selfish now had to face the truth. I had built something extraordinary, while Silver Creek Lodge faltered, not because of me, but because of their own poor decisions. Looking back, it's hard not to feel a jumble of emotions. Part of me still aches from the way my parents treated me, as if everything I did was meaningless. But another part, perhaps a bigger part, feels liberated. I'm living my life my way, no longer waiting for anyone's approval. Each morning when I walk into the lobby of Eagle Crest, I see my dream come alive before my eyes. The bustling lobby, guests eagerly discussing their plans, staff moving quickly with warm smiles. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mixes with the crisp mountain air streaming through the open doors. It's everything I had once wanted for Silver Creek Lodge, and now, it's a reality here. My team at Eagle Crest has become my new family, in ways I never expected. Many of them, like Linda and Maria, were former employees at my parents' hotel. They left because they couldn't tolerate Logan's chaotic management, and they found value here. Linda often jokes that she finally feels her experience and ideas are appreciated. I know exactly how that feels. Outside of work, I've started reconnecting with old friends. For years, I was so caught up in proving myself to my parents that I lost touch with relationships that mattered. Time for coffee dates, hiking trips, and rebuilding those connections. Recently, some people in town, those who had criticized my decision, have changed their tune. They admit they admire what I've accomplished. Just last month, we hosted a fundraiser for the local animal shelter at the hotel's new event space. Seeing everyone come together for a good cause reminded me why I love this job, to create spaces that bring joy and comfort to people. Still, it's not always perfect. There are moments, especially on quiet evenings, when I think about my parents and Logan. Even though they hurt me, I sometimes wish things had turned out differently. I wonder if they'll ever truly understand the sacrifices I made to save the family legacy. But I've come to realize that their approval is no longer something I need. My success, my happiness, belongs to me, and no one can take that away. For so long, I lived in the shadow of their expectations, but now I stand in the light of my own. About 3 weeks after the Montana Luxury Hotels Awards, my parents reached out. They invited me to dinner, just the three of us. I hesitated for a moment, but decided to go. I wanted to hear what they had to say, though I didn't expect a true apology. When I arrived at their house, something felt different. My mother greeted me with a strained smile, and my father avoided looking at me, his hand sliding through his watch as if it were a habit whenever he felt uncomfortable. Over dinner, they started with small talk, about the unpredictable weather, about the recent 5-star reviews for Eagle Crest. I knew they were preparing for something. Finally, my father cleared his throat and said, "Evelyn, we want you to know that we are proud of what you've accomplished." My mother quickly added, "We may not have always shown it, but we truly see how much effort you've put into Eagle Crest." It's really admirable." I wanted to feel pleased by their words, but they felt like a calm, empty wave, with no lasting emotion. It felt like too little, too late, especially after all these years of being overlooked. Instead of reacting, I simply nodded and waited for what I knew would come next. "Sure enough," my mother began, "Logan's struggling, the hotel isn't doing well, and he's feeling lost. We were wondering if you could help him, guide him to get things back on track." At that moment, I said nothing. I let their words hang in the air as I looked at them, really looking at them. My mother, her hand tightly clutching her wine glass, nails perfectly manicured, and my father, who seemed to be studying the tablecloth, as if it held the answer to all their problems. I calmly replied, "I offered to help a year ago." My voice was steady but firm. "I gave up my life in San Francisco to save Silver Creek Lodge. You chose Logan to manage it, even though you knew he wasn't ready, even though I had the experience to make it work. You didn't want me leading then, and now, when everything has fallen apart, you're asking me to step in and fix it. I'm sorry, but I can't do that." My mother opened her mouth to argue, but I raised my hand to stop her. "I can offer advice if needed. I can recommend strategies, suppliers, even training programs for the staff, but I can't go back and fix what Logan broke. That's no longer my responsibility." They didn't know what to say. Finally, my father muttered a few words of understanding, but the disappointment was clear on his face. My mother seemed like she still wanted to argue, but this time, she didn't press further. That night as I drove home, I felt much lighter than I had in years. Setting these boundaries hadn't been easy, but it was necessary. I no longer had to bend over backwards to please my parents or clean up Logan's messes. I had chosen myself, my happiness, and my own future. In the weeks that followed, I noticed a shift in how I faced life. Saying no to my parents had given me the confidence to set boundaries in other areas. I stopped over-explaining my decisions to others, whether in work or personal matters. I became more comfortable letting go of relationships that no longer served me, focusing instead on those who brought me joy and support. At Eagle Crest, I found this balance. We had hit new milestones. The hotel's booking rate was the highest in the area, and more boutique hotel owners reached out asking about our consulting services. Meanwhile, my parents' hotel continued to decline. I heard they finally hired a professional hospitality consultant to try to turn things around. As for Logan and me, we hardly spoke. But I had accepted that. He'd never apologized or acknowledged what had happened, but I no longer needed that. His bitterness was a burden he had to carry, not me. Eagle Crest was now a reflection of every ounce of effort I had poured into it. The resilience, the vision, and my independence. And as the hotel flourished, so did I. One morning, standing in the hotel lobby, I watched the sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the modern decor I had designed. A family walked by, laughing as they made plans for their day. One of my staff members was expertly handing a snow-capped hiking itinerary to a couple. In that moment, I realized how far I had come, not just in my work, but as a person. For so many years, my sense of self had been tied to my parents' approval, to their ability to see and recognize my contributions. But now, I didn't need that. What I had built wasn't just a hotel. It was proof of my resilience, creativity, and ability to overcome challenges. This journey had not been easy. Letting go of the hope that my family would change was painful. But it was also freeing. I no longer felt shackled by their expectations or disdain. Instead, I felt proud of what I had created, proud of the team I had nurtured, and proud of the life I was living. I wasn't just surviving. I was truly living. The Regional Hotel Awards ceremony was an event I had once only dreamed of attending. The conference room buzzed with excitement, packed with industry leaders, journalists, and hotel owners from across the state. As the host began reading off the nominations for the Boutique Hotel of the Year category, I caught a glimpse of my parents sitting at the back of the room. Their faces were neutral, but I could feel the weight of the moment for all of us. When Eagle Crest was announced as the winner, the room erupted into applause. My team cheered as I walked onto the stage, my heart pounding in my chest as I accepted the award. Looking out over the crowd, I locked eyes with my parents. My father gave a small nod, and my mother's eyes were teary. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was a recognition, something I had long stopped expecting but still appreciated in my own way. After the ceremony, I celebrated with my team. My parents didn't approach me, and I didn't seek them out. This was my moment, and I wanted to share it with those who had helped me achieve it. For the first time, I felt truly free. Free from the need for their approval, free from the shadows cast by their choices. Success no longer meant proving them wrong. It meant proving to myself that I was capable, worthy, and valuable. As I raised a glass with my team that night, I knew I had truly found peace. This story is a testament to the power of resilience and determination in the pursuit of one's dreams, despite the challenges along the way. Evelyn didn't just rebuild her career, she reaffirmed herself by letting go of the past and choosing her own path. What do you think of Evelyn's journey? Could you stand firm and decisive in your own life, just as she did? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice may inspire those on a similar path. If you found this story meaningful, don't hesitate to share it with friends and loved ones to spread the message of strength, independence, and confidence. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to receive the latest updates. The stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the intention of spreading human values in life and have been rewritten with the support of AI. If there are any mistakes, kindly overlook them with understanding. Wishing you all the best in life.